Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Block Runner MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe, and today we got some L2 action.
Some more L2 stuff, dude.
Yeah.
As promised from yesterday, the biggest L2 thing happening is Merlin's inevitable deployment mainnet release, because we've been hearing a lot about Merlin. I mean, Jeff has been basically completely dominating since he's kind of entered the scene.
Yeah, correct.
BRC 420s. The bitmap.game virtual environment ecosystem that has a lot of traction. And then now, out of nowhere, just complete L2, God mode.
Right.
Going from announcement to testnet to mainnet within the same month.
Yeah.
Pretty unheard of, from our perspective. I don't think we've ever seen.
No, definitely not.
An infrastructure layout of this magnitude and at this pace, right?
Yeah, and we're going to show an example of something that we saw in December that is just now getting rolled out, right? We'll talk about it at the end.
Yeah. So, okay, what is Merlin Chain? What is the opportunity of it? Should we care? Should we not? What is it going to do? Let's talk about it, right?
So Merlin Chain, so we got an announcement January 31st, so it's a few days old, and they're talking about the testnet, the final release coming up, and their, I guess, token allocation mechanism that they have going right now.
Correct. Which typically, in Ethereum land, a lot of the L2s, they leverage airdrops, right? As part of their token generation, mechanism, right? It's hey, we have this new L2, ZK this, ZK that, whatever it is, optimistic this, optimistic that. We're rolling everything up, guys. That's what we're doing. So here it is. Here's our product, and then here's a test net. So get in there, start deploying, start messing with things, interacting, and then we have this arbitrary criteria set that we generated.
Yep.
Based on that, we're going to distribute a portion of our tokens to those testers, right? Those contributors to the network.
Right.
I don't think that's the case here.
Yeah.
This is it's also a token generation event, but I guess the criteria of allocations are a little bit different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily an airdrop.
Yeah, and so the reason why we keep talking about L2s is because we know that L2s is going to be an important part of the Bitcoin ecosystem because as we saw, I think it was over the weekend, we saw that Bitcoin mining prices were at 500 sats per VByte.
Yeah, and that was just over the weekend. That was a spike. We had periods where that maintained for weeks.
Right.
So essentially eliminating the majority demographic.
Yeah, at 500 VBytes, I think a transaction is on average $20 to $30.
Yeah, that's just a simple transaction.
And that's still nothing, right? We saw hundreds of dollars on Ethereum.
Yeah, correct. During the heat of what was that? NFT mania,
DeFi mania.
Yeah, so these things are going to happen if we don't I guess offload some of that pressure off of the layer one. So we knew this was coming, and there's people here rushing to kind of support that uncumbering.
Yeah, so let's take a look at what the potential opportunity here is for entertainment opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at here a bunch of L2s that occurred on, I guess, different chains, including obviously Ethereum here, and its current market capitalization is around $20 billion.
That's just today, yeah.
Yeah, and that's in the heat of the bear. And
I would say, yeah.
At its all-time high, it was probably around 200, right?
Probably 100 to 200. So this is obviously a monster market segment, right? We're talking about entertainment pool opportunities and such. The L2 space is huge, and it's we went to Ethereum Denver. We talked about that experience. It is literally an industry of its own right.
It is
L2 providers. It's quite the competitive space, right? And everybody's trying to claim their market share.
Yeah.
Just imagine them as cell phone providers, right? It's this constant war. How do I get more network share?
Yeah.
That's what these guys are doing, right? Because that's how they make their money. Is the more transactions they're rolling up, those are more fees for them, and it's a whole business, right?
Right.
It's an enterprise.
And the biggest business is Polygon Matic, right? And so...
Well, biggest, because it was basically first, I would say.
It
first
was
successful...
Yeah, it had a TGE on Binance.
It did.
And then I guess it
started out as Matic.
Yeah, it started out Matic. It didn't do a crazy amount of volume at the very beginning, and then all of a sudden it started getting adoption.
It turned into Polygon.
It turned into Polygon, and then started getting adoption from all these like different
A lot.
projects.
Dapps, games, including ourselves.
That's right.
Back in those days. We're like, okay.
Yeah, because we were debating on whether to use Matic or XDAI at the time.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden they switched their marketing. It went from Matic to Polygon, and then that's the inflection point here is when they transitioned.
Basically, they did a much better job, the best job of building an actual tangible network effect.
Yeah.
For an L2, right? And then that kind of like triggers like a cascade event, right? Where developers kind of rush in,
right,
and they contribute and they start building in these environments, right? So expect something similar to kind of like manifest on Bitcoin. So like the horses in the race are positioning, Merlin being a big one, right? It's like, okay, we're rushing this tech.
Yeah.
It's here. It's already usable. People are building with it now. And let's get this token out. Let's distribute it. Let's just do this TGE, right?
Right.
So what's the opportunity in that?
So Merlin on people's Launchpad, it looks like 1% of Merl for $1,000 total. So 1% of their allocation is being used in this Launchpad, and that represents like a total fully diluted value at $100,000, right?
Yeah, so they're setting a price, right?
Yeah, they've set a price, 100K market cap.
Which most IDOs typically do, right? But in most IDOs cases, this isn't really like an IDO. An IDO, typically, they receive funds.
Right.
A very small allocation, like, oh, okay, our goal is like 100K, 200K, 300K, whatever.
Yeah.
In exchange for that allocation, now you're securing like spots or potential lottery spots for this, TGE that is preset at like a very low market valuation. It's obviously...
It's designed this way.
Correct, for like many reasons. From my perspective, it's like the main leveraging of this is to kind of like generate, market entry hype, right? It's like, okay, this new token has entered into the ecosystem and it's done 100x, 200x, like out the window, out the gate.
Yeah.
Because it's designed to do 100 to 200x because they know this thing's going to spot trade in probably the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
As soon as it enters the market because there's so much, anticipation for it.
They could have set the market cap at $1,000 and they do 1,000x right out the gate.
Yeah, to inspire FOMO, right?
Right.
And this is a very well understood tactic in the Web3 space, and it works, and it works,
yeah,
right?
It does work. So, it's akin to like when we were talking about Bitmap during its mint phase, right? Its blockout phase, pre-blockout. Each Bitmap was about $1.50.
Correct, but that was completely organic.
It was completely organic, but the whole point is that you got in at $1.50, and if you're able to kind of snag like a portion of this, you're getting at floor. I mean, bottom prices, right?
Literally, the micro is the floor valuation. So you're pretty lucky. Well, in this case, there's no luck involved. I think you just need to. There's some criteria here, step by step. So there's other YouTubers out there that have done like the full due diligence.
Yep.
We recommend you find them. Francis is out there. I think he did like a full breakdown, step by step. How do you participate and get your allocation? But from our perspective, like this is, if we go to the next two, like the next ones, I mean, look at this. This thing is already so like oversubscribed.
Yeah.
As far as participation.
Yeah, 100,000 people have like already interacted with.
So this started Merlin yesterday.
Yeah.
So within a 24-hour like time frame, already like that 1% allocation up for grabs is so diluted.
Yeah, so I think we should talk about like what we expect in terms of like the marketing as a result of this, right?
Yeah, because it's important because Merlin's kind of setting a precedent here, right? Whatever the outcome of all this ends up being, it's going to be replicated 100-fold through all the next L2s that enter the space, most likely.
Yeah,
And,
so basically, it's like once this is all said and done, it's the market cap was it does 100x, like you were saying,
which would be what,
and it creates more FOMO.
10 million.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. There's your 100x.
Yeah.
10 million market cap.
And then people who didn't get into this, they see, 10 million market cap. That's a good deal. I'm going to go in.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it goes to like 50 million, 100 million.
Correct.
Right. And then that's how all this works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think the opportunity really is, I think participating in this like TGE is always cool. It's always good. There's opportunity in that. But from what we've seen from L2 deployments in the past, the big opportunities also come from like participating in the dapps that are building in those ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
Like, with DEX, remember when Polygon hit and like QuickSwap?
QuickSwap, yeah.
QuickSwap did a legitimate 1,000x.
Yeah.
Like if you were there,
Yeah, we were looking at it when it was like $1, and then in the mania it went to $1,000.
Yeah, because it was the native DEX for Polygon.
For Polygon,
Yeah, you had to bridge over your Ethereum.
And we needed it, right? It was like we have like all these like L2 assets. Like, how do I swap them? It's like, well, here we are, quick swap.
Yeah, so that's a very well understood, like necessary primitive for an L2. So of course, Merlin comes out the gate with a swapping protocol already like ready to go. So
yeah, and at the end, definitely listen to Jeffrey on Ordinal's Revolution, recent podcast. They talk about how MerlinSwap, I think, is like an independent development team bringing this together.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these devs know, right? Like the devs know.
Yeah, they know for sure.
Yeah, they're probably experienced devs. They've seen this happen 100 times on Ethereum.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, the opportunity is let's deploy the first DEX. There's going to be liquidity in this environment. Let's service it.
Yeah. All right, moving on to Mobox.
Same thing with Gamefi, and this is all another very veteran-esque sector.
Yeah, I feel like Gamefi and games on chain is probably the best utilization of L2s. It's the perfect like demographic for use case here.
Yeah, it's literally almost unfeasible to like architect a game on L1.
Yeah,
we've tried that.
Yeah,
like quickly it becomes there isn't a demographic in the world that's willing to like participate in that kind of game experience.
Right.
Because game, even though they're Web3 games and there's like financial components to that experience, it still has to like mirror our like, Web2 existence, like, almost feeless and frictionless, gameplay.
Yeah.
It has to be as closely aligned to that. And that's what L2s provide, basically.
Right.
Or like super scalable L1s like Solana,
Right. Yeah. All right.
Bitcoin is obviously not that.
Yeah. So another game, BitmapWar. This is one that runs on Bitmap, which is cool.
Yes, a Metaverse game, like you said.
And L2, again, is going to be a vital piece to like making this thing run.
Correct. So again, in our opinion, this is the opportunity. And there will be more dApps that kind of like seep into this ecosystem. And once they see, oh, damn, there is a lot of liquidity here. It's like that is like the beacon for developers, right? Liquidity, wherever liquidity exists, developers, they come in. Yeah. And that's Merlin's goal, right? Is to onboard as much liquidity as possible.
Sure. Yeah. And we even have Charles Hoskinson chiming in on the whole L2 race on Bitcoin.
Yeah. If you don't know who that is.
Yeah. He's the founder and evangelist of Cardano.
Evangelist. Cult leader, some would say.
Yeah.
I mean, he's literally been out there like in the deep seas, like searching for aliens over the last year or so.
Yeah.
But
as one does, right?
As one does. But he's coming back and he's seeing like, damn, there's some weird shit happening on Bitcoin. It's like, oh, you guys are like fucking connecting all these L2s to it. That's new. So he's chiming in with his opinion, right? What do you think?
Yeah, so I want to kind of read through because Charles and Munib have a dialogue on Twitter, and ultimately the foundation of the conversation boils down to this: it's like onboarding and offboarding from this ecosystem. Typically, whenever you connect an L2 to something like Bitcoin, you have to send Bitcoin to this multi-sig wallet, and then you can program what happens with that multi-sig based off of some logic, right? That's connected to that multi-sig.
Okay.
Right? So the issue with that is that it's a multi-sig. That means somebody else controls the value in that multi-sig.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to trust them. Right? And so in the dialogue here, there was like, well, there's this trust issue that you have to rely on. And Munib's like, well, not really. Right? Because in this thing called the BitVM, we sort of solved that. And so that's what the discussion is about. So I recommend you guys read it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a good like back and forth between.
Yeah.
These guys know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah.
For reals. And Munib, obviously, he's been like pioneering and working on this like L2 expansion to Bitcoin for years, right? So he's an authority when it comes to like this discussion.
Right.
And yeah, the fact that like BitVM continually becomes like part of this narrative, right? Like what is the actual ideal mechanism for layer 2 that is like closely aligned to Bitcoin's actual ethos, right? Of like, trustlessness, right?
That's right.
Because as we've seen on Ethereum, there's a large like new trust component to these ecosystems, right? These sequencers, like you have to trust that they're not going to.
Yeah, and you have to give up the trust, right? So you have to trust them, but in return, you get a better experience.
Yeah, correct. So that is a little bit of like what's happening. Like as far as Merlin, like that is like the deployment of that, right? Because there is a custodial component to that, right? You're sending your Bitcoin to like not this. There's like a bridging of assets to a new environment that just requires some new layer of trust, right? This isn't like some sort of smart contract that is, facilitating these transactions natively on the first layer.
Correct.
Right? Because you can't do that in its current form. Like the infrastructure doesn't exist to enable that, right? So these ideas as far as like bringing BitVM into like as part of the technical infrastructure of this, it's still like in its theoretical stage, right? So if we were to kind of like wait around for this to happen, we'd be waiting for another 6 months possibly.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think? Like
well now with Citria, they're actually implementing.
Oh, so maybe we don't have to wait another 6 months.
Right. Okay. So Citria announcement today is great news for Bitcoin L2s. BitVM-based bridges and rollups are happening one way or another. We're already looking at how BitVM can upgrade SBTC for stacks.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so this is huge.
SBTC, they have like a deployment window like
in
a couple of months.
Yeah, April.
So if they're going to implement this as part of SBTC, I wonder if this is going to factor into like maybe a potential delay. I don't know. Because this is new stuff.
It is.
Hopefully not. That would be like monumental as far as like sadness if stacks had delay like another 3 or 4 months or something.
I don't think so. I think they can still reach that update in April and then, probably implement BitVM on top of that.
Yeah. But nonetheless, so Citria, definitely. So Bob Bodley came out with like a banger like explanation, as he does.
Yeah. Yeah. So Citria, Bitcoin's first ZK rollup, everything you need to know. So he has the longest TLDR that we've ever seen, but we definitely recommend that you guys read this.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Citria is legit, and you should be paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah. So the fact that there are like L2s coming out of stealth mode that have been building for months or potentially like an entire year, as this team is claiming, like that these conceptual ideas that were introduced, I guess, theoretically are pretty close to like an application stage. Right now, it's not going to happen overnight. I still think this is going to be like a 3 to 6 month like actual rollout, right? If you're actually legitimately using this technology. Now, there's going to be probably a bunch of L2s claiming in their marketing. It's like, we're BitVM like,
compatible.
Right, this is BitVM, guys.
Yeah, we've been working on that.
Right, so that this might be like a new narrative spin to it, like the next generation of L2s. Who knows? But
yeah, so what is BitVM? It's compute anything on Bitcoin. Yeah, by this guy named Robin Linus. So this was released December 12th, 2023. So it was 2 months old.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly.
Yeah.
Because again, this is like a theoretical proposal. It kind of reminds me like what Unisat proposed with fractal Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's like these theoretical papers, like this is a good idea. And then it's like you put it out there and you wait to see will the developers actually like.
I feel like, they put it out there, but I think they're also developing it themselves. They're just like, they're putting out the theories like this could work, and clearly we're working on it.
Yeah.
But anybody can implement this.
Well, it reminds me a lot like whenever like optimistic rollups were first. Like I remember like they're putting out papers just like this.
Yeah.
Vitalik was endorsing him. He's like, yeah, this is a good idea. You guys out there who are developing in the ecosystem should probably focus on this.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, we have like optimism.
Yeah.
And everything else.
Yeah, but that took several years though.
From
paper to like optimism, that took several years.
I would say like a year and a half, maybe. Yeah, it took a while. That's what I mean by. So Ethereum had to like truly innovate in this space because Ethereum needed it.
Yeah.
Scaling the layer 1 environment is much more difficult. I think Ethereum still has like a 10-year roadmap for that to happen, like actual sharding and such to factor in. Bitcoin has absolutely no roadmap or any consideration for like, how are we actually going to like scale this main chain? That is not part of like the ethos, the design.
And it probably doesn't need to do that.
And I think it's safe to assume it never will.
Yeah,
right?
Correct.
There's been plenty of attempts to try and like brute force that, I guess. And that always results in like a fork and nothing really.
So this I guess this doesn't go without saying is that we've seen L2s exist on Ethereum and all these other L1s, right? Mm-hmm. So it is not too much of a stretch that we're going to see 50 to 100 times that level of activity on Bitcoin, because all they're doing is doing copy and paste, right? And
I see.
editing some stuff. All of a sudden, we're also doing L2s.
Correct.
You know?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, like we're past like the innovation stage. The new innovation stage is like, how do we incorporate BitVM into all of this?
Yeah, how do we, that, and how do we take what's existing, like the innovation that exists, how do we take that and implement it on Bitcoin? That's like, you have to innovate there.
There's some finagling there for sure. But nonetheless, the market is impatient, so therefore there is like a demand for, we need today solutions. Okay, we understand that tomorrow solutions are probably technically
better,
more safeguarded.
Yeah.
Better. But it's okay. Whenever we get to that point, then okay, you guys can pitch us these narratives and these new technical infrastructure components. But for the now, it's like, give us an L2 environment where we could deploy apps.
Yeah.
And generate, new liquidity mechanisms.
Yeah.
Because that's what the market has proven, like that is really the driving force.
Agreed.
It's liquidity, right? Where is that? I want to look for that. So Merlin has a big shot at like really attracting a lot of that activity because it's quick.
Yeah.
Jeff is fast.
Yeah.
He's very fast at delivering. Now, there's probably some trade-offs to that. There might be a lot of risk, I would imagine, by going so quick.
Yeah.
I would think that results in not enough testing.
Yeah, be careful with interacting with dApps and all that stuff. I mean, you have to do your own due diligence and make sure that you are comfortable with whatever happens when you interact with these applications.
Yeah, there needs to be a PSA for sure. It's like, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in L2, but there's also a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And welcome to crypto. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is what it is.
No risk, no reward, right?
Yeah.
Finally, we're looking at Ordinal's Revolutions podcast with Jeff from Bitmap Tech, and definitely take a read, or actually just watch it. But Ordinal's Revolutions, kind of like the place to go if you want to keep up to date with as much as Ordinal's stuff that is happening.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for us to like keep up with everything, so sometimes it's just easy to see what's happening just on a YouTube video.
Yeah, we're entering into like a consolidation mode, I think, as far as like the content we output, because we've found like our focus, right? It is very much in this like non-arbitrary DMT realm, which encompasses bitmaps, things like rare sats, things like non-arbitrary tokens, and what's going to manifest out of that. So a lot of our content's going to like, we found like our nexus of like things that interest us. Yeah. But there's a lot of shit happening beyond that, right? Yeah. That scope, right? So definitely recommend that. And one day we'll get Jeff back on here to like really hash it out.
Yeah.
But we did an interview with him a while ago, so definitely check that out too.
All right. Well, that's it for us. I appreciate you guys for watching. If we missed anything, let us know in the comment section below. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.